What's going on, everyone? Thanks for joining us for another Spin That Shit podcast. We got a great artist with us, great guest. CJ of the Wooks is with us. Great. This band right now is really making a lot of noise, I think, in the industry, especially in this genre of jamgrass, bluegrass mixture. It's got a lot more rhythm added to it. It's good stuff. This new album, Flyin High, that just came out, is solid from front to back. I've been jamming it here the past couple days, and go check it out. They're getting ready to go on tour March 1st, so if they're in a city near you, go check that out as well. Great performances live, I'm sure. CJ knows what he's doing. You can tell he's passionate about it when he talks about it. He's just a lover of music, like most of us. If you're on this podcast, I'm assuming you just love music. So, we're going to talk to CJ about all kinds of good stuff. First, I do want to say thanks to everyone that's been following, sharing, liking, subscribing, all that good stuff here on YouTube. We're on all streaming platforms, Spotify and Apple Podcasts, however you listen to podcasts, we're out there. Thanks for the support. We're climbing the ladder. We got a lot going on, so I'm very excited about the future. And I think that's all I need to say. Let's go talk to CJ. So thanks for joining me. Kind of last minute deal seems to work out pretty good.
Yeah. Everything seems last minute with all this tour getting ready to, we started this past weekend, but it was all kind of close to home. So tomorrow we actually head out like for the long term. And I've been like scrambling around doing a bunch of house chores to try to get out ahead of things since I'll be gone for a couple weeks.
Right. CJ, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, my name's Justin. Nice to meet you.
Thanks for having me on here. Do we have another host? Or is it just the two of us today?
Just us. My one buddy that was doing it with me is with conflicting work schedule, and a lot of times I do these in the evening, so it made it harder.
Yeah, I was looking at the John R. Miller one, and there's two people on there, so I was.
Yeah, he'll probably jump on every now and then, but for the most part, it's just me from now on.
That's cool.
Yeah, John's a great guy.
Yeah, man, he's a big part of the kind of musical scene here in Kentucky, West Virginia kind of area, and was a really huge influence to Tyler Childers, which is kind of he has been a huge part of kind of a revival of sorts in the Lexington area over the past 4 or 5 years, and we were kind of lucky to be a part of that as well. But so John R.'s kind of
he's a hero,
special part of the Lexington scene, in my opinion. I don't know how many people really realize how much he's done for it as well.
Yeah. I just saw something online about Kentucky, or it was a question somebody put out there. It was like, what's the best state where music comes from? And I think it might be Kentucky.
Yeah,
there's a lot of debate on there. It was kind of funny to read.
I think everywhere has something going on, for the most part. And a lot of times it's something different, but it does seem like there's a lot of good songwriters here. There's just like a ton of people, and not all of them might not be from here, but they're certainly like cutting their teeth in the scene. Like Darren Hackford, somebody that's come to mind. He's from Ohio, but like his main market so far has been Kentucky. He's a genius songwriter. And there's a girl from Eastern Kentucky and lives here in Lexington now, Abby Hamilton, that's really, really cooking. She's still like working the bar at the local music scene, or the local bar that has good shows about every night called the Burl. But touring at the same time, but it's only a matter of time till that. I think she's kind of the next thing
she's gonna blow up.
Yeah,
I have to check her out. I haven't heard her name. I've been to the Burl. I've made road trips there just because I think it's
Man,
an awesome venue.
it's a great venue. We have other like really good venues, but it's the kind of perfect size, that 400 seat. There's some really cool smaller places. A place called Green Lantern, Owl's Bar is kind of a little more intimate, but the Burl is kind of the every night. Like if you come to town, you might have a real fighting chance at something good.
Yeah. So if you would just kind of give me the background of how this band formed, the Wooks.
Yeah, uh, I've been on the road for a long time. Actually, I probably started in somewhere around 2007, I'm guessing, um, with a little more traditional bluegrass band out of Kentucky called Newtown that was fronted by a female vocalist and fiddle player, Katie Penn. And I played in that scene for a while and got kind of disenchanted with that particular. I was just, a little tired of the road. So I took some time off from that band and met this guy, Arthur Hancock, who was running a little music club called Willie's. And I'm guessing that was probably I probably met him in 2012, 2013. But we started playing some music as a duo together when we called it the Wooks Brothers. That was just a term that was kind of thrown around a lot then by all of us, especially Arthur. And it really didn't, we had no intentions of, we had no long-term goals. We were just enjoying ourselves. Tyler was starting to play some as a solo act. Sometimes we get up after him and play some tunes. Nothing had really like snowballed into what it is now.
Yeah.
And over time, we just kind of was like, this is fun. We were playing a lot of covers, like Townes Van Zandt, Robert Earl Keen. I bet we played like 8 Robert Earl Keen songs in a set. I had written songs for the other band that I was in, and some of them had done well on like Bluegrass radio and stuff, but we were really kind of just diving into things that were fun. And then once we decided to start adding members, then we were like, okay, we can't just cut all these, songs, these random like Charlie Roberson songs or Robert Earl, these singers. We can't do all covers. So
Right.
we started, it's like I wrote a song called County Girl. Arthur cranked out a few, and Galen Green cranked out a few, our original mandolin player. And then we had that first record with a few covers, but not maybe like 3 or 4 or so, but the rest was all original music. And we went out and won this contest at Rocky Grass in 2016. That was a huge, a very meaningful thing for all of us, because that festival was really a big deal for all of us, particularly myself. I grew up going to the academy there and the festival with my dad. And over time, we've had, lineup changes, people come and people go, and we've kind of just kept that songwriting thing as the backbone, and that mixing of like that traditional bluegrass, and not necessarily traditional bluegrass, but like mainly that 70s era bluegrass of like the Sam Bush, Tony Rice, JD Crowe, mixed with this influence of kind of the rock and roll of that time as well, the band, things of that Southern rock, the Allman Brothers, and kind of twisting those two things together, along with the singer songwriters that kind of got us started, the Robert Earl Keen and John Prine, that kind of vibe. And it kind of comes out to this equation that I think is rather unique, and it's fun for us because that's kind of what makes us tick. And the philosophy's kind of just stayed the same. We've kind of added to and taken away and changed a few things, but like that, the backbone of the material has really stayed pretty consistent. Like right now, 3 of us are writing material for the band, and I think it's fits right along with that original philosophy quite well, and that's kind of why we've been able to um, develop and kind of maintain that focus with the fan base as well, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Just hearing that whole background right there really pieces it together. All those elements there, like mixing bluegrass with some of that rock stuff. I think it's more fun. You know, you get old school traditional dudes like the guy that when I first picked up a banjo, there's only an old timer around here that's 80 something years old. And the only thing he wanted to show me was Earl Scruggs. If it wasn't Earl Scruggs, it wasn't bluegrass, and we're not, there wasn't nothing else out there.
It's
But
funny, like, I had a phase like that in my life where, like, if it didn't have something to do with Tony Rice, I didn't want anything to do with it. But then I started, I got older and I started seeing the value in the song and the lyric as much so or more than like the solos, the flashy solos. And like, also I came to grips with this at this point in life where I realized I might not necessarily go down as this virtuoso guitar player, but like if I could write some songs that meant something to people, that like I could feel like I was leaving something to the canon, and that might be a better way for me to feel like I've contributed something. And my focus sort of started to shift towards songwriting at that point in time. It was probably somewhere around the time where like all these like 12-year-old kids kept showing up and just like blistering it, and I was like, oh, maybe I need to write some songs.
So when you write, what's your process? You sit down with a guitar and just kind of piece it, or you actually like to work with people?
It's kind of like developed over time as well. Early on, some of the first songs I wrote for Newtown were like, okay, I have this idea for a song. One's like about a sort of a ghost, Civil War era ghost of this lady who sort of loses everything to the war and sort of just loses it as Sherman's march comes through, and that was like sort of this concept of a tune, and I went out and tried to execute it. And I did the same thing for a song about my grandfather's like World War II experience, a song called Thin Red Line. And sometimes I would just have an imaginative story per se and try to execute that. And that was effective. Like the lead singer at the time also asked me to write a song kind of loosely based on her dad, and that worked. But over the last like couple years, it's really been these random thoughts that come to my mind. Like, for instance, the song Flyin High, that's the title track of the new album. That the first few lines of the chorus just kind of came to my mind while I was driving, which was, sometimes the plane goes down in the middle of the Johnson grass. And I was like, that sings good and it sounds cool, but like, what the hell does that really mean? It seems kind of foolish. Just like a random group of words that sort of, it's a real sentence, but it's like, and then I was like, oh yeah, like I know a guy who crashed a plane and in a farm back in eastern Kentucky where there may have possibly been a decent amount of Johnson grass, which is like this invasive species around here, around. So I was like, okay, maybe I can make this, since this thing has come to my mind and it sings good and it kind of sticks in your head. That's like a good sign. Maybe I can come up with a storyline to go around it. So I took Alan's plane crash, and I'm like, okay, well, Alan's cousin Pam and her husband Jim Bob are like the coolest people I know. Let's put them in it. So the first couple verses are their story. And then I was like, okay, my dad's best friend's also from that area. His name's Chubb. And I wrote the second part about Chubb and Rose, their relationship and how that sort of developed. And so it's sort of this love song, but it's like depicting these two relationships that I kind of deemed pretty cool relationships. It's not, I don't know if you listen to it, if you would even notice that it's a love song, but it is. And that's the only way that I can really stomach writing a love song, because oftentimes they give me like the heebie jeebies, because they just typically are a lot of times saying a lot of the same old things.
Yeah. It's funny you picked that song as an example, because well, I would tell people, if you watch the music video, you'll know it's a love song for sure.
Yeah.
But great imagery, but by the way, on that, I love the possum running down the track.
Yeah, that was one night at a festival called Kicking It on the Creek. Jim Bob spent after, we were pretty deep into the evening, and Jim Bob was telling me about all the things he had hit with a train. As a, I guess you'd call him a conductor or whatever, but he was like, deer, sometimes they just run right in front of the train. And I'm just like, why are you doing that? And he goes through these whole spiel about all these animals and like how they behave around the train. And he's like, possums are the weirdest. He's like, they get on the track and they just run straight down the rail. And I have no idea why, but you just split them right down the middle and they could just go left or right and be fine. And that like imagery just really stuck with me. And also Jim Bob's a very, he's just a funny guy and a great personality. And like when he tells something, it's almost like you're inside of a cartoon. He gives sound effects and these really funny visuals, and like it sticks with you. So it really made sense to make him into that animation character, and luckily Josh is out in California, but like I got on a Skype with all of them, all the Chubb and Rose and Jim Bob, or actually Rose had passed, but we had like videos and pictures, and Chubb sent some video. And then I got Pam and Jim Bob on a call like this, and the animator was able to understand their personalities. And it was really amazing how he captured like their smiles, or like just little things that made it accurate, And
that's cool.
The guy that crashed the plane sent me a video describing the whole process, and it was epic, because he's kind of like a real epic character too. You can kind of imagine a sort of an Eastern Kentucky, like Hunter S. Thompson kind of personality. And it was just the video really helps the song to me, because there's so many details I care about in that tune, and wanting to depict these really cool people. And it makes all those lyrics kind of a little more clear to the audience. There's little details in there that you might miss, but the animation can kind of make it like where nothing really gets lost, versus like a music video if we were just strumming guitars and singing the song.
Right. Yeah. So you actually released that. That was the first song I heard off, because it's been out longer. It's the single track, right?
Yeah, that's the first tune that I ever sang on an album. I actually like had planned on Harry singing that tune, and the guys kind of were like, "No, you wrote this song. These are your friends. You need to get your ass in there and sing it." So
the new album Flyin High, I love it, by the way. It's only been out in a few days, but like I knew you guys were coming on, or you were coming on, so I had that thing on repeat all day today, just kind of analyzing it, and it's good stuff. It's really good.
Yeah, man, I'm really proud of the actual like sound of the album itself. The crew that we put together for the recording process, I feel like really knocked it out of the park. Like tonally, I feel like it sounds like as close as I've been able to get to the recordings that I kind of hold as a gold standard of like tonal quality.
Yeah,
and,
it's definitely clean, and I mean it's well done. I love Mudfish Mama. That's a good one.
Yeah, I Probably my favorite thing about that tune is I co-wrote it with someone who I grew up looking up to, here in our local scene. This guy named Ray Smith. He was in a band with Tyler's current fiddle player, Jesse Wells, who started with us. And then Ray was also in that band, was JT Cure, that now plays with Chris Stapleton. There were several other guys, really good players in that band. It was a group called Tula. And I first, I think I met Ray. They did a tribute to the Last Waltz at this old club back in Lexington called The Dame. And I went to that, and I came away from that show just really like diving into the band and the whole catalog, and it just really inspired me. They dressed up, they wore the same outfits. JT had studied Danko's the way they even moved on stage, and
Really?
it was an epic show. And I never got to see the real thing, so this was kind of monumental for me. And I think in every musical community, there's these people that are awesome. That they may choose to be an English teacher and not go on the road, but that doesn't mean they couldn't make it
Right.
on the road, or cut a gig. And so it's a big deal to write a song, with somebody that when you're a kid, you just wanted them to maybe just pick a tune with you or talk about music. So that's pretty cool. Another instance of that on the record is the song Butler Hayes I wrote with my childhood guitar teacher.
Oh, really?
Who I certainly looked up to. His name's Eric Cummins.
That's awesome.
It is.
The opening track, I definitely got to ask about that. Willie Carlisle.
Yeah.
How'd that come to be? It's such a different take. It's its own thing now. It's so grassy versus his version, of course.
Our banjo player George Guthrie dug that one up. Was aware of Willie, a fan of his, and luckily, George is really good about workshopping tunes, and was able to take a song that had no words, or not had no music to the words. It was more like a percussive thing, like a ham bone thing that Willie does with that. I think he calls it a holler, and George put this whole thing together musically behind it, which I think helped us have a different take on it, right off the bat.
Yeah.
And I think that tune kind of sets the tone of what the band kind of sounds like in its current formation, and the directions that we like to go musically. The types of jams that occur in that song are kind of sort of what happens in the live shows a lot of times. And I think it just sort of embodies everything about the record. So that's why it was the first track.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, Willie's great. I've spoke with him a couple times. He's going to be on the show at some point, but yeah, it was a nice surprise to see that.
Yeah.
What is this, your third album?
Yes.
Third. I found out I first heard you probably 2 years ago. I came across Atlantic City.
Yeah.
And I thought that was
songs. It's been
done and done.
Yeah, but since then I feel like that tune, it's just one of those that you don't really see it coming. It's a tune that me and Arthur played in parties, at just hanging out, and people they liked the tune, but hell, I didn't know that it was going to get, I think we're close to 2 million plays on our version of that. And it's it's pretty cool to search something on Spotify, and then the other two versions are Levon and Bruce Springsteen's, and you're right there, and it's
yeah,
that's pretty awesome. And also that tune, has led so many people to us. A good example, like, it's I don't know if you call it ironic, but like it's interesting that Town Mountain also had a Bruce Springsteen tune that they cut that just took off, and I'm on fire.
Yeah.
And it's I don't know, maybe there's something to maybe Bruce Springsteen's like the secret bluegrass songwriter or something, but
Yeah.
so many people find us through that tune, so it's just like sheer
That's how
luck
I,
that we had the nerve to cut it. I was really proud of the way we did that tune. I thought it did it justice. But there is like, if you hear that tune in the corner of a bar, somebody playing, you're liable to hear it about everywhere you go now. And that doesn't really bother me too much. We don't play it every show. We kind of play it when the crowd it's a crowd like is really engaged and they're asking for it and everybody's cool, then we'll play it. But it's the other night we played it first, like right off the bat. That was kind of fun because it was just like, I don't think the crowd or us really saw that coming, so it's just one of those that might hang around for a while.
yeah. Yeah, I like it. And covers are hard. I say this all the time on the show that they're hard to do it justice. And and I think you guys did well with that one for sure.
Yeah, it can be frustrating in the bluegrass world when it comes to covers because so many people like gravitate towards those a lot of times. I think it's because sometimes it fascinates people to hear like a banjo playing like a Tom Petty tune. And if you're not familiar with bluegrass, it might be like kind of earth shattering to hear like someone playing a tune that you're really familiar with, but on those instruments. But in reality, like just a good song can work in
Right.
bluegrass or anything. And it
That's a good
and
bridge.
you can like you can get salty about it. It's like everybody wants you to play, like you see all these viral videos of like a banjo playing like a Zeppelin tune or something.
Right.
But like at the end of the day, I think that whatever it takes to get more people aware of banjo and fiddle music, it's like, what difference does it really make?
Yeah.
Like that's a good thing.
Yep.
So long as, I like to think that then they are able to see the songs that you've written as well. And it's something that you don't want to play. You don't want to cut like 4 or 5 covers on an album, but one or two it's sometimes fun for you. Like we cut a John Prine tune on the album, Iron or Betty. Sometimes something just means so much to you that you just want to like let the world know and show that by putting the time into like cutting it and releasing it. And that was kind of that situation with Iron or Betty.
Yeah. 12 tracks. Yeah, it's solid all the way through. Highly recommend it to anyone listening. Definitely go check it out. Um, is there any artists out there you would like to work with, or anyone on your radar that you think would be cool to sit down with and figure out something?
I've got to like, I've got to, I've had a jam with Vince Herman, um, from Leftover Salmon. I think he's one of the most incredible like forces. I hate to even like say musician because he's really kind of like more than even that. It's like he just can get this crowd and group of people kind of in the palm of his hand, and he loves like good music and good songwriting, and then also like epic jams. So it's like it was probably one of the most fun jams that I've ever had, and it was just me and him and a banjo, so 2 guitars and a banjo. And that's typically not a great concoction for like an epic jam, but it was because he was a real huge energy, and me and Arthur were really like feeding off that. So if I was ever going to have like a producer, which we self-produced this album, but I'm always thinking like, man, it'd be cool to work with this person or that person. And Vince really comes to my mind for that question.
Nice. Yeah, they're super talented as well. What do you think you could say that? What's the most you think you've gotten out of this music? Like, what are you most proud of? It's a heavy question, but I like to usually.
I probably answered it the same way, but I hate to give you like the same thing I typically say, but it's the truth. Like the coolest thing so far has been like hearing your lyrics sang back to you, because it's like, I don't know, man. That's just like real gratifying or whatever you want to call it, because it's like you put so much time. First of all, it's kind of exposing when you write a tune, like every time I write a song and I send it to the guys, even though they're like my friends and they tell me they think they like my songs and blah blah blah, every time I send them 4 or 5 new songs and I don't hear back, in a day or so or something, it's like, oh man, these must really stink. Like I bet they don't like it and they don't want to tell me, or man, after like thinking about it, maybe this song is stupid, because it's just like every time you write something, or for me, it's like every time I write something that I think turns out good, a lot of times I'll have like a little drought and I'm like, oh, well, I guess that was it for it. So when you hear somebody sing them back to you, it's just like, man, that can like really kind of fuel the fire for me anyway. It's like somebody took enough time, they listened to this thing enough times to like remember the words,
Yeah.
because usually the words mean something to you. You've written the song because something's bummed you out and you want to kind of therapy your way through it with the song, or somebody's so cool that you like want to write a song about them, or they've meant something to you, or it's just a funny tune that's like a cool story, and when somebody puts time into it the way that you have and learn it, and then you know we just had a hometown show on Saturday and the album's not been out that long, and there was a tune or two where people sang along to it where they've only had like 48 hours, and it's just like I just want to go out there and be like, thanks, that means a lot, you know
Yeah, for
because
sure.
this business is really a pain in the ass sometimes. I mean, it's it can seem like the greatest thing in the world, and it can seem like the most foolish thing in the world, all in a matter of weeks. It's just kind of, you have your ups and downs, and the virus is definitely proven that. So those kind of things are pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine the just to show up and have someone that in tune with what you're doing and what you're saying, especially in 48 hours, that's pretty good.
I mean, a more, just to give you something a little different on that, something that was really cool specifically to this album was having Bill Wolf master it, and Bill Wolf recorded and engineered like all of the quintessential like Tony Rice stuff, a ton of other people's records of that time as well. Worked with like Jerry Garcia, David Grisman, all kinds of epic stuff. And I just Googled him, and like I found his like Outlook email and a simple little website, and realized he was still operating out of Falls Church, Virginia, and he put a ton of work into like this band. He had no idea who we were, and like he heard some of the stuff on there and could tell quickly that we respected Tony's work, and Tony had just passed, and he
Yeah.
called and talked to me and told me a lot of cool stories. And just for someone who's accomplished so much, and sometimes like you're not sure, like they might mail it in, but he really put a huge effort into the mastering process, and it really made a huge difference. And so just like that is a cool milestone to have like his name on the same project, or on our project, when he also did work the work that made like Manzanita sound so incredible. And that was pretty neat, specifically for this album.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a sad day when I found out Tony passed. Tony Rice.
Yeah, man, it's just there's really no one in my musical upbringing that is higher up on the list. You know, it's kind of like Tony and Levon Helm and John Prine for me. There's hundreds of other folks, but like that's kind of Mount Rushmore.
Yeah. What would you say is the coolest tour you've been on? Like, what certain other bands you toured with and just was great? Or
anytime we've played runs with Tyler, it's been pretty memorable shows because, you know, his fans we really sit really well together. Like opening for him, like the fans typically, they're not like just waiting for us to get off the stage for him to play. It's usually been pretty awesome shows. Particularly probably my favorite show that we've done with him was this place, John T. Floors. I think they just played there for like Robert Earl's, maybe one of his retirement shows or maybe his last show. But Floors is in Helote, Texas. It's where like Robert Earl got his start. Willie Nelson used to live in the green room. I think just huge history there. It's about 3,000 or 4,000 people. And I never really like had that many people like going nuts, particularly for like banjo, and fiddle, that kind of thing. We've done a tour with the String Dusters, and that band was really influential to me and was kind of like a real saving grace for me when I was coming up in bluegrass, because I didn't really know where I belonged. Because the traditional side of things, like I didn't come up as like an 8-year-old like guitar shredder. I found bluegrass after I was already driving, and that's not really the typical way to get into bluegrass. And I also was into Stevie Ray Vaughan and stuff like that before I got into bluegrass. And the Dusters were just a real open door. If they had a pick or a party or whatever, they were just always really kind and wanting to share what they knew about music, knew about the business, or just like hang, and like that's not always the case, man. Sometimes people only want to hang out with you if you're somebody. And they were just always, it's one reason why their fan base is such a like kind of tight knit thing, is a lot of people they befriended and became their fans. And then those people brought people to the shows. And doing a tour with them was cool. It's like, this was a band that really made me think, okay, if I'm going to try to do this, this is the way I want it to be. Or at least kind of model it towards that.
Right.
To get to go on tour with them it's like, wow, my 18, 19-year-old self wouldn't have really seen that coming,
Right. Yeah, that's great. I like those guys too. Seen them a couple times in the past at the Vogue in Indianapolis. I noticed the tour you're going on, you're not coming through here.
Yeah,
you're coming close though. I could make a drive.
Man, I can't even keep up. It's probably the most intense, tour that we've done. Usually it's like a week or 2 weeks, but this is just, I think it's 27 shows, maybe only like 5 days off in between all of them. So
yeah,
it's not super strenuous, but like it'll be fun. We'll be kind of dialed in by the time it's all said and done.
Yeah, the Southgate Revival.
Yeah,
great venue too.
Yeah, I saw Tony Rice, I saw Tony Rice and Peter Rowan at the original Southgate house.
Okay. Yeah.
When I was just real young. Actually, like, I think I was on like a double date or something. It was like freshman year of college, and I realized that show was happening. I just got up and left, and my dad like picked me up, and I left my buddy with these two other girls, and needless to say, they never called either one of us ever again. I think Slade Cleaves opened up, and he's pretty cool. He was pretty cool too. I didn't know anything about that at that time, but
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, yeah, like I said, if I can make it out there, I'll definitely come see you guys live. Where can the folks find your music and website and all that good stuff?
yeah, we're at wookoutamerica.com, and pretty much any of the platforms are gonna have our stuff streaming. I definitely encourage people to check out Sirius XM too. That's a good place to hear some of our music, and they're the smaller or the subgenres are heavily supported by XM, so that's helpful
Yeah.
for people
What channels are you on there?
the Bluegrass Junction, and
Right.
then specifically there's a show called Off the Rail that plays us a good amount, and I think like maybe the Village, and there's a couple other like more Americana kind of programming
Okay.
there. But
Nice.
I try to encourage people to look into getting a subscription, because they really help the artist. A lot of records get made because of the play that people get on there. So,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people don't understand like streaming royalties and all this, and like when I tell people, it's like, well, if you really like, if you want to make a contribution to musicians, like that's a good way. And a lot of times people are like, I never really thought about that. It's like, yeah.
That's why I have Spotify, and I feel guilty because I know it's not the greatest. So
Yeah,
I make sure I buy merch.
yeah, that's helpful
Every
too.
show I buy merch.
The T-shirt or the soft good, as they say, is quite helpful. But I'm also not one of those like anti-streaming. I think it just needs to get better.
Yeah.
Maybe like a happy medium, because like I said, like 2 million plays on Atlantic City. It's like there's people that show up to shows because of that song popped up in some kind of algorithm, and that's helpful too. It's just maybe there's something, adjustments that can be made that's sort of in between, like that might be a little helpful for everybody.
Right.
But I'm with you. I have it, but I'm not sure. Like I do, I buy stuff. I try to buy stuff all the time. I like vinyl records a lot. So
same here. Yeah, I'm in the vinyls.
I think the most thing I'm proud of, or the thing I'm proud of most about this album, is that we somehow got the vinyl like before the album came out. So it's like,
that's like impossible right now.
Yeah, I know it is, man. I gotta thank the Vinyl Lab in Nashville. They crushed it, and I was lucky to find them, because everybody else was like, 6 months, something like that.
So you'll have those available on the road then?
Yeah, they're for sale on the website. I actually had them like 3 months ago. It was like peace of mind, because a lot of times you're doing the pre-orders and you're like selling something you don't even have yet, and you're just gonna get like tons of emails about it. But not this time.
Right. All right, CJ. Well, we'll have to have you back on in the future sometime, maybe.
Yeah, man. Anytime, if there's something you want to talk about, or just hit me up. I'll be down.
Yeah.
I like talking about music. It's we're all kind of geeks.
It's a passion,
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been I'm in the process of moving, but I'm gonna build like a little studio in this barn, and I'd like to start doing them in person with people.
Yeah.
And maybe jamming some a little bit.
And where is the barn located? Like what town?
We're on the south side of Indianapolis, southern
Okay.
Indiana. So I'm like an hour and a half from Southgate.
We do this gig in Whitestown at a brewery, and I got like some family up that way. So sometimes I'm up there. So just keep me in the loop.
Yeah. All right, man. Well,
Have a
take
good
care,
one.
and everyone go see them on the road.
Yeah. Come out and say hello.